All right, we're here with acclaimed comedian Zarna Garg. She has a big show coming up at the Chevalier Theatre on December 31st. And Zarna, thanks so much for joining us. How excited are you to come to Boston?
I am so excited to come to Boston. Thank you so much for having me, Joe. I love Boston. I've been there a few times, and this time we're doing a big New Year's Eve event. It's going to be great.
And I have to ask, is the family coming on the trip? Because they're obviously such a big part of your life.
Of course they are. I'm going to be dragging them out. They're going to be working at the show. In fact, they're going to be taking pre-orders on my book at the show. Listen, I had a moment of realizing, why am I the only one working?
That's a good point. That's a
Right?
good question.
I actually believe in child labor. I say put them all to work. And it's been great. They're all going to be there, and we're going to celebrate New Year's Eve together, as I am inviting everybody in Boston to do with us. My show is very family friendly. It may be one bad word, maybe, here or there, but nothing your kids haven't heard. And teens, tweens, they love. We do this show. The holiday season is a very busy time for me because I do this show in New York, and families come from all over the world for my comedy show. And this time I'm coming out to Boston, trying to make it easier for Bostonians. I hope they all come out with their husbands, wives, kids, grandparents, uncles, aunties, mistresses.
All of the above, all of the
All of the
above for you to
above.
come make it out to the show. And, in watching your last special, One in a Billion, it was great because you brought the family out, right? And they're
Yeah.
such a big part of your routine and all the things you talk about. And of course, your social media platforms as well. How important is it for you to bring them out on stage or have them be there for these shows when so much of the material is about that part of your life?
Oh, it's critical. First of all, they should know all the bad things I'm saying about them. I think, even though I'm the comic, we are a family business. My kids helped me get started. I would have never thought of doing comedy. God knows no Indian ever thinks about having fun. That's not our thing. I was telling somebody that if we were gonna do the SAT prep class at the Chevalier, it would have sold out in a minute because that's what the Indians like to do: work, work, and more work. But fun is a new thing for us, and now we're having so much fun doing it together. My kids love coming out and meeting the fans and meeting people who are like us. Everybody who comes out to our show is a lot like us. They're all families doing their own things, applying for college, getting into college, whatever their life story is. So it's very important to me. And I just shot my second comedy special, which is going to be launching on Hulu in July this year, in July next year. And you might be seeing more of my family.
And you have the memoir I know coming out in a bit as well. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yes. So my memoir, which I wrote over the last 18 months, This American Woman, is the story of my life, and particularly aimed at how I got myself into the stay-at-home mom rut and found a way to get out of it. I prioritize that over a lot of other things because I feel like a lot of people are in a place in their life where they wish they had done things differently, where they had wished they had made different decisions. And I wrote my book to give them ideas on how they can do it. How, no matter what their age, no matter where they are in life, they can make a change if they really want to. It's never too late. And the story of my life has been written in that way. It's not a chronological dump of what happened to me in 1997. Nobody cares about that. It's more meant to be stories of like things that I've overcome and ways that other people can overcome. Even overcoming your evil mother-in-law.
A lot of tricks, a lot of tricks to the trade. I'm excited to take a look at it. And your
Yes.
life story is it'll be so much fun to read about because you talk about the stay-at-home mom part of your life, the 16 years, and of course you traveling from India to come to the United States when you were really young in your life. When did you realize, with the motherhood aspect of it, and even maybe some of the trials of your early life, that there was some comedy in there that could be, utilized to be something that's fun to talk about on stage?
My kids, maybe. I would have never seen it. I don't think I'm funny. I'm being honest. I mean, I'm doing this interview selling show tickets for a comedy show. I don't think I'm funny at all. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm very serious about the things that I say. Other people find the things funny. My kids laugh. I'm always yelling at my kids. I'm yelling at their friends. I'm yelling at their friends' friends. And they think it's all hysterical. So I never sat down and reflected, is this funny or not? My kids dared me to go to a comedy open mic. And I didn't think it was a business. I thought people just, I don't know what people do. The idea that people sit in a room and laugh together is never something Indian people have explored. I lived in America 30 years, never stepped foot in a comedy club, never thought about it. And now that I do it, and so many people come out, like we sell thousands of tickets everywhere we go. And it is so fun because now we're learning that you can laugh at your family, the quirks of your husband. I have so many funny stories about my husband that I've been sharing on dinner tables, and that every mother in the world or every wife has enjoyed. Now I know that this can be done on this scale, and like millions of Asians, we are discovering the American stand-up comedy scene, and it's been a blast.
Take me through the dare, because I know, right, that's where it all started. You do this open mic in New York in 2018, but it was a push from your family that got you there. So can you take us through how that all transpired?
Yeah, so I was really struggling wanting to get back to work. I was a stay-at-home mom for 16 years, and I really realized I wasn't into my kids. I'm being honest with you. It was driving me crazy, the whole thing. And I failed at a million things. I failed at every business you can imagine. I tried being a matchmaker. I tried having like a consumer product. Everything was not working. I wrote an award-winning screenplay. I wrote a rom-com thinking, how hard can it be to make a movie? I'll write a story, I'll call Disney, and they'll make it. It's not that simple. Even though I won the #1 top prize in screenwriting in America, I beat out 11,000 scripts. No one wanted to read it. So my kids then sat me down and said, all this other stuff you're doing, that's not what you're about. You're funny. Everybody thinks you're funny. You need to go to a comedy club and do comedy. And I was like, that's not a job. What is that? And they were like, no, mom, this is a real job. You should go to a comedy club. And in a way, they dared me, because what happened was that as a stay-at-home mom for 16 years, I made them do things they hated. Everything. Violin, piano, karate, you name it. My kids had tried it all, and I kind of dragged them through everything. So when it came time to me trying something, they were like, oh, is she too scared to try something new? And I really had to kind of show up, because I had to not be that much of a hypocrite, which is how I ended up on a comedy club stage. But when I got up there, the woman who was running the open mic, she said, "You already here. Why don't you do 5 minutes?" And I was like, 5 minutes of what? And she said, just talk about whatever you think is funny. And I started trashing my mother-in-law. I mean, who doesn't think that's funny? Who doesn't think that's funny? And that's where, and it was just wild. I couldn't believe how much people were enjoying it, and they wouldn't let me get off the stage. They're like, tell more, tell more. So in a way, the Asians are discovering comedy through me. And in a crazy way, the Americans are discovering our life through me. So it's worlds colliding. Look, everybody probably has an American friend, an Indian friend, an Indian neighbor, a doctor, a colleague, something, right? So for the first time, they're seeing their lives, like that all American life, reflected through an Indian prism. And like how we celebrate Thanksgiving, like we just did Thanksgiving. So I had so many jokes about making tandoori turkey, which was a total disaster, by the way. I don't recommend it at all. Turkey belongs with cranberry and all the other things that they've been doing right for 100 years. But what has become is that these shows have become like this cultural experience. And we talk about our kids, which is the big uniter. Every parent in America is worried about what their kid is going to do when they grow up, how they're going to pay for college, all the usual stuff. So that's what these shows have become. And of course, my husband can't do anything right. Everything in the end is his fault somehow. So there's also that piece of it.
What does it mean to you in that regard that you are a trailblazer? And I think people are going to be looking at you now on stage as a trailblazer for, again, as you just mentioned, a specific set of people that didn't quite think they could be in the comedic landscape in America.
Being a trailblazer is a funny thing because when you are one of one, and right now on this whole planet Earth, I'm one Indian woman talking about our life and taking on the mother-in-law. Even the other Indian comics never make mother-in-law jokes because it's taboo in our culture. You have to understand, in our culture, if the mother-in-law is setting you on fire, you're supposed to help her. You're supposed to thank her and help her and say, yes, yes, please don't extend yourself too much. Let me light myself on fire. So the funny thing about being one of one is that when you're that alone, you start looking around and you're like, why is this not happening? Is there a bomb threat I don't know about? It's like if you showed up at an airport and if you were the only human being there, would you not look around and be like, something doesn't feel right about this? So there's been a moment of feeling that way, but I do live within the comedy community. I'm a New York City comic. And because I'm so plugged into the New York City comedy scene, I know that, we're all blazing trails in our own way. I have so many friends who are bringing their own unique perspectives onto the stage, and I'm just one of them. And, we try to make it really fun. And the whole reason I do stand-up comedy, I work every day during the holiday season. Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, every night, because I want to create the family experience I wish I had to go to. I want people to come with their kids, teens, everybody, whoever, your families, uncles, aunties, in-laws, because I wish I had that place to go to. Every year during the holidays, I look for something with my kids. What can we do that could be fun? And I'm trying to answer that question for millions of Americans now.
And, one thing I've seen you and heard you talk about is, your experience within America and your appreciation for the country.
Yeah.
And I do think it's interesting because Americans, obviously we're all Americans, just living in the country. I think we can sometimes forget the good things that come with it, even though it's right to call out the bad things. And as with any country, America has its own bad things. But you have really made it a point to kind of make the audience kind of appreciate where we are, maybe in a way that other comics would. And I'm curious, what the reasons for you specifically are behind that.
Oh, I'm deeply appreciative. It's all honest, 100% authentic feelings. Americans love to beat themselves up. There's a lot of self-loathing in the country as a nation. And I've lived here long enough that I also am a part of it. Oh, this is wrong and that shouldn't be. But when you look at the big picture from the outside, people like me who leave their families behind, I could not be doing this in India, what I'm doing here. No way, no chance in hell I would have a career like this back home in India. No chance in hell. There's so many things that are only an America phenomenon. My book deal, the reason I got a book deal to write this book is because American publishers want the story to be told and want millions of people to be inspired. Nobody back home in India would have helped me write this book. That's just a fact. I'm not even trolling India because I actually love India. I love the culture that I come from. Many people have referred to my show as the love letter to India and America because I'm all about seeing the positive and making fun of it all. But in particular, I'm like very happy that you've picked up on this vibe. It is very important for me that my American audience recognize how special they are and they leave elated. They should know how special they are. They should know what a world they've created where millions and millions of people like me leave everything behind and wait for years. I immigrated to America 30 years ago. It took years of waiting, paperwork, all of it, just to get the shot at being American. And then being able to get on a stage like a true American and complaining about it all.
That is the true American experience.
Yes.
And one thing that you said, I believe it was on your appearance with Seth Meyers, you were talking about how, you might not say I love you to your husband, but, Americans they'll say "I love you" to the Uber driver. They'll say it. They'll overuse it to a
Yeah.
pretty great extent. And now reflecting on it myself, I probably fit in that category to a great extreme. The last thing I wanted to ask you before we let you go is, we've hit on the family a lot, and again, there's such a big part of all the things that you do in the comedy world, but you were, as we talked about, a stay-at-home mom for 16 years. So you
Yes.
dedicated yourself to the family.
Yeah.
And now they're traveling with you,
Yeah.
around the country. And they're taking on some of what you had to take on earlier, and that is the sacrifice for the greater good of the family. So what does it mean to you now that they are now taking upon the sacrifice that you had to do for many years?
I think that this is my idea of good parenting. I'll be honest with you. I think one problem that we're dealing with in America is that young people don't think of anything besides themselves. And my children need to know that there is a life beyond them, that there is a mother who needs their help. My children are extremely community driven kids. Both my two kids who are in college do a lot of community service. We have to help each other. It cannot be one way. See, in America, parenting is you raise your kids, then they raise their kids. The Asian way is you raise your kids, then they help you as you get older. And I'm trying to find a middle solution because I do believe that my kids stand to benefit from the sacrifices they're making. Learning how to give up something and find the good in giving up something for somebody else is an education and is a vital part of being a good citizen. So they come with me. We work, as I said, we are a working family. I am working Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, and my children are working with me. And we make it fun. The good thing is work doesn't have to be boring. That's what this is about. Everybody can come out, hang out with us, and we'll have fun together. And that's what I believe in. That's what our family brand is.
I got to ask before we let you go, your daughter, is she still in the ceramics class?
Oh, don't. I need a lot of drugs to get through this conversation because so we reached a hybrid solution the way every Asian parent does.
Yeah.
She's getting a degree in computer science and a degree in classics. And part of her classics education is actually creating all these ceramics pieces and like the history of civilization and the history of the pots and pans and whatever. So we kind of reached a hybrid solution, and she is doing what she loves to do, but she is also graduating with a degree in computer science, which is I would have lost my mind if that hadn't happened.
There you go. That's that give and take you were talking about just
Exactly.
a little bit earlier. Well, Zarna
Exactly.
Garg, thank you so much for joining us again. You can check out her show at the Chevalier Theatre on New Year's Eve, December 31st, of course, here in Massachusetts. Thanks so much for the time.
Thank you for having me. This was so lovely. Thank you.